All right, so say where we are right now.
Okay, well this is the old bit of Thomas Andrews' house. Number 12 Windsor Avenue, as it was then. It's now number 20 Windsor Avenue, and it's now the home of the Irish Football Association. But
It's European football, folks.
yes, soccer. You know it. And
So this been the entry hall?
yeah, this was the main front door,
Okay.
and Thomas Andrews would have walked out that front door on the 2nd of April. Because that was the day that Titanic had her sea trials and then left for Southampton in the evening.
So that was the last day he was in this house.
Yes, it would have been dawn on the 2nd of April. He was picked up out front by a horse and carriage which took him down to the shipyard, and he never came back.
And yet, you know, kind of walking through here, I mean, well, let's, that model up there, was that an Andrews model, or is that...
No, that's a recent one.
Okay.
I'll try and get some light on the matter. There we go.
There we go.
But the window in this house really is spectacular.
Yeah.
This is a Victorian house built in the 1880s,
Mm-hmm.
and Thomas and Nellie just rented it.
Yeah?
They never bought it. So
Oh.
the original owner put in that stained glass window, but obviously it was kept all these years because it is such a beautiful piece.
It is, it is. And where would these doors have led?
The one over to your left was the dining room,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a receiving room then behind it. It's now knocked into one room, but it would have been two.
Mm-hmm.
In here, what unfortunately was the main living room, the receiving room for guests. This would have been a morning room in here, because this gets the morning sun. It's probably locked as well. Oh no, I'm not mind just going in. It's offices now, but it does still have the old fireplace and the bell for calling in servants.
Bell?
Yep. It's by the
Oh.
little button, which connects to the bells that ring for the servants to come
Wow.
attend to your needs.
How many servants would they have had? And would they have been like hired help, or would they have been otherwise?
Well, here's the census return for this house on the 2nd of April 1911. And this is filled in Thomas Andrews' handwriting.
Wow.
So he describes himself, Thomas Andrews, 38 years old, shipbuilder, and
He's Unitarian.
Unitarian, which means non-subscribing Presbyterian. Helen or Nellie, Elizabeth, Elba as she was known, and 5 servants living in the house. They're variously a nursemaid, a parlour maid, general domestic servant. It's hard to read that one. Kitchen maid probably. But they lived in the house. They lived in the servants' quarters.
Is there any account about the relationship between the Andrews and the servants?
No.
No?
I'm afraid not, no. But I would imagine him being a very decent sort of a man. He would have treated them very fairly.
I mean, because we're talking about Thomas Andrews, he was the man who thought to put water fountains at the top of the spiral staircase for the stokers down in the boiler rooms. And Jim Cameron, when he actually went down there for the Ghost of the Abyss thing, they maneuvered an ROV down there, and you can still see to this day you can look down on the top of the spiral staircase and look on the wall, and you see a little indentation in the wall, and it was a water fountain, and it said for crew use only.
Okay.
And it's something that he added in because these men were going to be working in 10-hour shifts in 100-degree temperature, and they were going to be thirsty at the end of the day.
Yes.
You know, he thought of little things like that for everyone.
Yes. His great-nephew, John, says that you never hear anything bad said about Thomas Andrews, but he was only 39 and he hadn't had time to make his mistakes.
That's true.
But I just think he was an all-round decent guy. I think that he did not have a bad bone in his body. So, you know, everything you read about him and you hear about him is all full of praise, but I think that's how it was. I think he was a decent soul.
Yeah, and so what would have been up these steps right here?
Come on up to the landing, and then upstairs you would have had 5 bedrooms.
Okay. Well, this is very surreal for me because I'm somebody who wants to play Thomas Andrews, and I'm standing
You're walking in his footsteps.
exactly
You're in his house. You just walked up his staircase.
something he did many a time.
Yes. And he probably thought when he left this house in early April that he would be back within a couple of weeks. He would have taken the return trip with Titanic back to his wife and child, but
I imagine there probably was a coat rack or something like that next to the door where he would take off his bowler hat. He kind of had a signature bowler hat that was smudged with some kind of paint or grease or something like that. He wore it at Harlan and Wolff, and he never bothered to change it, so it just kind of added to the character a little bit. So those 4 doors right there, would those have been bedrooms?
yes, they probably are all closed at the moment because this is where all the top men and women from the Iron Fae work.
Right.
But what I can tell you is that door, that front bedroom, connects through to this one,
Mm-hmm.
which is now the Chief Executive's office. So that would lead me to believe that that was the nursemaid's room for Elba, so she could attend to her during the night to save Nellie getting up.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense, I think.
Well, that was a common practice of the time.
That's Elba when she's
Oh
grown.
my goodness.
And she was quite different, let's say. She defied convention.
Really?
She, as I say to you, she got a pilot's license, private pilot's license,
Right.
because her stepfather, Henry Harlan, was involved in the aviation industry here, so that probably helped. She went off to Africa, and she went up the Congo on her own. She
Wow.
established wildlife reserves in Kenya.
Wow.
She used to drive around Belfast in an amphibious car.
Ah!
She was well known. She used to rock up to church in this putt car. When you talk to the other Andrews people about Elba, they just roll their eyes because she was so different, very, very different.
She's very pretty.
Yeah. I think she's probably in her early 20s in that photograph. And she died in a car crash in 1973. She had been working for the Guinness family down in Dublin.
Really?
As a sort of ladies' companion. And she only was there for a couple of weeks and decided that she wasn't enjoying it.
Right.
So she phoned her cousin Diana to come down and keep her company. As soon as Diana arrived, Alba got in her car and drove away to leave Diana to cope with the job.
Mm-hmm.
That was just what she was like.
Wow.
So in the end, on the journey home, she took a corner too fast and she killed herself in the car.
Oh my goodness.
So that was the end of her. Her mother, Nellie, lived until, I only have that photograph of Nellie. She lived until 1967.
Mm-hmm.
She was a little bit senile by that stage.
Right.
But,
And I read that, she never really gave up hope that Tom would come home, even as she was remarried. Now, did Elba, how old did you say she was when she died?
well, let's think, 1973, and she was born, 1910?
Yeah.
So, yeah, 63.
So did she get married and...
No, there are no direct descendants of Thomas Andrews because Elba never married or had children.
Okay. So any Andrews descendants would have come from his brothers?
Yes, and his sister Nina. Yes.
And because I'm in contact with an Andrews descendant, his name, interestingly enough, is Taylor Andrews, Dr.
Oh my
Taylor
goodness,
Andrews.
right,
I'm like,
okay.
doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And, but what are we looking at here?
That's Elba, and one of her half sisters, Vera, who's still around. She's in her 80s now. And
She's still around?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
No, so she's Nellie and Henry Harlan's child. She's not an Andrews as such, but she's very much part of the Andrews family. She's treated as one of them.
Where is she now?
She lives up in Hillsborough, which is about 12 miles outside of Belfast. She was in hospital recently. She had a bad fall, so she's not in great health. But the BBC did an interview with her, which was broadcast on the 15th of April this year.
Okay.
And lo and behold, Vera produced the engagement ring that her mother was given by Thomas Andrews. She still has it. It's in the family.
Wow.
Yeah. Obviously, when Nellie married again, she didn't wear that ring.
Right.
So she kept it. But interestingly as well, before she married Thomas, Henry Harlan was also after her hand in marriage. So the two of them were vying for Nellie's attentions.
Right.
She picked Thomas. We know what happened. And then 5 years later, she married Henry.
Right. I mean, but what was what was the relationship between Mr. Harland and Andrews? I mean, I can't imagine that Thomas would have been necessarily a vindictive
No.
person.
No, I don't think he would, no. They would have moved in the same social circles. The Andrews were a high-class family.
Right.
And they all were descended from Captain William Perry,
Right.
who was the grandfather of Lord Perry.
Mm-hmm.
So, even the Barbers, Nellie was a descendant of him. So Thomas and Nellie were actually distant cousins.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that wasn't too uncommon back at the time.
Exactly. Keep the money in the family.
Right.
So they would have certainly known each other and would have bumped into each other at functions, and also with obviously Harland being part of the Harland and Wolff
Right.
empire. Yeah, yes, they would have known each other in business terms as well.
Right.
No, as you say, I can't imagine that there would have been any sort of rivalry
Right.
pertaining to the pursuit of Nellie.
So which would his room have been?
I would have thought that one. I would assume that it's not open. I will try it for you, but I think these are normally kept locked. So, as you see now, it's...
There's his desk. Sorry.
And the fireplace has gone as well. But this would have been... It's really looking over the front.
This is very surreal. Whew.
Quite modernised.
It is.
The cornicing isn't as ornate as it is in other parts of the house.
Right. Is the carpeting right here original?
No.
No?
Although it would have that sort of pattern, it's that. Let's have that look to it.
And that, what about this door and that door?
Extra bedrooms. Now bear in mind back then, man and woman used to have separate bedrooms. You think of Downton Abbey. And this is Morris's office, and he won't mind me going in here because Morris got the model.
So this could very well have been maybe Nellie's.
Yeah, could have been.
I just don't see why they would do separate bedrooms, but
They did. If you've seen Downton Abbey.
I've seen an episode or two.
Okay. Well, it's very close to what life would have been like.
Well, I'm about half on battery life, so I'm going to go down to the model.
Okay.
Who commissioned this model?
That's just one you can buy in a shop.
Oh, really?
It's not a particularly good one because it's missing collapsibles.
Yeah, it is.
Well spotted, you see.
So
it's missing
yes.
two, and then
missing
these
two.
doubles.
Right? Those just don't look right. Period.
No.
But it gets the idea. And what is up with the docking bridge? That is wrong and a half.
Yeah.
And they've got just a random pole right there too. I mean, it's hard.
And where's the ventilators?
That's a good question too.
Uh-huh.
And what are these right here?
That's just a blow-up of the family photograph. Now, that's taken at Ardara, which is the country house in Cumber, family house. That's just a little bit about from the local paper. On the 2nd of April this year, we had an event in this house to commemorate him leaving the house for the last time.
That's the video I saw.
Okay. And that was attended by John Andrews, Heather Boyd, who are all descendants, and also Vera Morrison, who's Nellie's daughter.
Is this a book you can buy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to wrap up this one.
Did I show you the apprentice photograph?
The apprentice
This
photograph.
is one of Vera's.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people mistake which one is Thomas, but that is Thomas.
Definitely. Have you ever seen that one?
You know, just kind of funny because people say that I favor Thomas Andrews a little bit, and I favor my dad a lot, and my dad has a mustache.
Okay.
So it's almost like, and I see my dad a little bit in that photograph. It's interesting how things work out.
It's meant to be.
Well, this is Thomas Andrews' house. I can't believe I've got the opportunity to stand here. Well, what do you think of proper closing words for this would be?
I suppose it's interesting to think what would have happened if he had come back from Titanic. Would he have continued his progression through the shipyard and eventually taken over from his uncle, who died in 1924?
Mm-hmm.
Would he have been sent to war in 1914? Could he have been killed in action during one of the...
He was a built man. I imagine that they would have, eagerly gone after him.
Or would he have been an essential part of the Harland and Wolff shipbuilding team, which was building ships for the Navy? It's hard to know.
Would the family life had pressured him to come home?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I've thought of. But, he may have died at 39 years old, but to leave this earth with the reverence and heroic status that he earned himself. I've told several people before that I hope that if I was in his position that I would act in the same manner.
Yeah, definitely. So. His legacy is heroic until death.
Indeed. So Thomas Andrews.